Hey everybody, this is Andrew Bender with the We Are Rising podcast. With us, we have Damien Beatdown Brown, who will be going over some of the card for New Year's Eve, Rising 49 decade. Damien, so glad to have you back, man. Sorry we've been playing phone tag uh this entire time. I'm glad we got to work it out.
Oh man, for a few days, hey, yeah. I don't use Twitter a lot, so it's a little hard for me to keep up with some of the messages. But no, it's good to be back again and have a chat and break this card down. It's an unreal card, so it's gonna be pretty exciting.
Yeah, so let's start with the three title matches. Let's do out the main event. Chihiro versus Kleber. Round two between these two. First was a no contest. I'm curious to know, what do you think? How do you think this one will go in their second outing?
And I'm pretty excited about this matchup because I feel like, particularly the main card, so the top five fights, I feel like it's probably the fight that has the ability for either fighter I would put it like like a dollar nine, like an even odds kind of fight. But stylistically, one needs it somewhere and the other one needs it somewhere else. And so I find it quite an intriguing matchup as a martial artist and a competitor. It's very game plan based. And I feel like if someone messes their game plan up in this one, like someone's going to sleep or getting submitted. So, I think you know everyone would agree that Chihiro Suzuki definitely needs to probably keep it on the feet. Um, Anyone from Bonsai MMA, I mean, I did a quick breakdown a little earlier for the Rising guys. I'll drop that tomorrow or something like that. But the you know the the Bonsai guys, like when it hits the mat, man, it's like walking through a cobweb in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? It hits you in the
Hmm.
face, and you're like, you got no idea what's going on. So it's just one of those things. So yeah, they're just so good at it. I feel like Suzuki just needs to be calm. He needs to pick his shots, and he needs to like not be emotional. I think he can be a bit emotional in a good way, and get a little over aggressive, looking for the knockout. I think that'll probably wind him up in a bit of trouble. Like we've seen in the past, Clever gets dropped, and he'll just stay on his back. You just play guard, just welcome him down, kind of thing. That's not what he wants to do. Is get after it and get tangled up in that. So I feel like if he sticks to his plan, he can still get a knockout. It'll still be a super exciting fight, but he just needs to land those well placed power punches, not like get excited and turn it into a brawl. Because I think that's he just gets caught, and those guys will pull guard. They'll literally get stuck into like a tie clinch and then just jump guard. So I'm good, thanks, man. Yeah, told you they're going to come and ask me for a coffee in a second. Um, so yeah, I feel like that fight is quite intriguing in the sense that it would be a 50-50 fight with who's going to win, but it needs to hit the mat for one of them, and the other one needs to be not, overexcited in their attack on the feet. In saying that, you know, Rizin's not really the kind of place where we find a lot of game plan, win at all costs kind of fights. We've seen some in the past. Guys fighting Imanari tend to game plan and have quite the boring style fight, and that's just what he brings out of them because of who he is. But yeah, I feel like we'll get excitement out of that fight, but we're probably going to get just a lot of caution and contrasting styles. But I think Suzuki could win by knockout, but he just needs to be careful in his approach.
One of the most interesting things I looked up was that Kleber has actually never lost by TKO or KO. He's only lost by submission, one time submission near the beginning of his career, and then all the rest were decisions.
Yeah, it's
Um,
wild, but he's been dropped like heaps of times. But he's
mm,
never been finished because no one hits him once and gets the walk off KO. So if you don't
mm,
get a walk off KO on him, which no one's ever done, you've got to go to the ground to finish him. Yeah, I mean
mm,
he's durable, but we all age, man. At 35 years of age, um, you know things are a little different. By the time
mm.
catches up to us, I experienced it. It is what it is, and he's probably at that age where one of those shots could put him to sleep. Suzuki has the power to do it, um, but like I said, he's never been finished by TKO or knockout,
Mm.
and that's why I think he just needs to not go to the ground with him if he gets one of those shots. He just needs a constant accumulation of knockouts until he gets like a walk off style KO.
Mm. Speaking of walk-off KOs, the reason why I'm up at this absurd time is because I was watching Social Kim versus Ji Young Yang and Road. They met in
Oh,
the and Yang just knocked out Kim in about two
oh,
minutes.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
well, didn't what was his last fight result
it was
on
in a
RIZIN?
way he not in a way he got the TKO standing TKO.
TKO, that's right. Yeah, well, it's a pretty quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm. That
You
was
know,
only
like
yeah.
that
And
was that the landmark? No,
yes.
that was the one
No,
before.
sorry, no, that was the
It
yeah,
was
that was
RIZIN 48.
yes.
Would have
Yeah, that
been
was
September.
48. Yes.
September, man, that's a quick turnaround. 12 weeks, like straight back into camp. I don't know if that's like a good thing, but hey, highlight reel's a highlight reel, and
Mm-hmm.
he's coming off a rising title fight, so you never know where his opponent's going to find himself after a win like that. So
Mm-hmm. Do you believe in MMA math?
no, because it
Because
never makes sense.
I was gonna say because Chihiro beat Kanehara, but Kanehara did not beat Clever got beaten by Kanehara. So I don't know. Some people believe in MMA math, some people don't.
No,
So
MMA math is stylistic matchups. That's all it is.
gotcha,
No, I
gotcha.
don't believe in MMA math. Uh, in fact, the problem with MMA math is it might give you some internal confidence that'll make you fight the style of the person that beat them. And I think that's a bad thing too. You just got to go in there and do your thing. Or if
Mm,
those guys can win that fight, it's just polar opposites in style, and they need to win in their own area.
mm. For the next title fight, we got Kyoji Horiguchi and Nikazu Zulu, EFC champion. And I mean, we got this is Kyoji back at flyweight. One beat Shinryu to get the RIZIN flyweight title. Um, I mean, you know, there's like usually two fighters who I never will bet against, and that's usually John Jones and Kyoji Horiguchi. And I kind of see the same thing with this, but I don't know. Do you see something different that Zulu can bring?
Um, I think what he's probably got that a lot don't. I'd have to have a look. I'm not sure what the reach was of Asakura in comparison to Zulu, but Zulu's definitely got that long, rangy striking style. He is going to need good timing to land those shots because the style. This fight, in my mind, will entirely play out in the feet. It's where both guys are most comfortable, but I feel like the difference will be the footwork and the movement of Horiguchi. So Horiguchi tends to get in but get out. A lot of guys get in and stay in there. He also doesn't go forwards and backwards in like straight lines, which even at this level you see a lot guys going forwards and backwards in straight lines. So I feel like Horiguchi's footwork, movement, and angles is probably what's going to be the difference in this fight. But Zulu's 16 wins, 6 losses. Out of those 16 wins, 14 finishes, 7 submissions, 7 knockouts. I mean, the guy's a finisher, and he came to RIZIN and made a statement on debut, and that's why he finds himself in a title fight against, from my mind, arguably one of the best, flyweights in the world. Not just because he is top 5 in the world, but like, I would say outside of Demetrius Johnson, I personally would say that Horiguchi is probably the second best flyweight ever, and I say that because he hasn't had a short period of success. You know what I mean? He was at the top of the UFC for a long time, left the UFC for, his own reasons, never got cut, fought for the title, lost to Johnson. It's like he's been around for so long now at the top of the game. And I'm sure there's politics and a reason why he's not in the UFC because the UFC will snap up anything that's hot. And he's top 5 in the world on the rankings. So, like, there's no reason why they wouldn't snap him up. So I'm sure there's something going on there. You know, but yeah, I'd put him up there with probably like the second best flyweight ever. And I think his ability to get in and out will probably be the difference in this fight because he's not going to stand there to be hit. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But my prediction is that Horiguchi will get the win. If he loses, I think he'll have to get knocked out. Like I think Zula will have to knock him out.
Well, here's the thing I've learned about Horiguchi is that if he can't strike with the person for whatever reason, if he can just always take it down to the ground and just grapple like he did with Sergio Pettis. You can just wrestle them for 3 rounds.
Yeah, for sure. But like, Zulu's got 7 submissions on his record. He's got a massive reach advantage, and even off his back. Look, I haven't watched a lot of his jiu-jitsu stuff, but even off his back, you'd say just based on his range and his body type, 7 submission wins. Like he's got to have some good triangles and stuff going on there. So, and when you start diving down into the ground game, he's got that there to back himself up and get back to the feet if that's what he wants to do. So Horiguchi can control the fight. He has the experience to do so, and I believe he has the attributes, or the skill set to get the win. But again, Zulu's got a good opportunity here to probably cause a massive upset and get a finish.
And the other title fight, Satoshi taking on Vugar, who's going up in weight for this first time in his rising career. Not his first time going up in weight in his career. He's actually done lightweight before. I found
He's a
out.
big guy. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
And he's not a small guy. And I don't think he necessarily struggles to make featherweight or anything, but he's not like a small featherweight, a guy that probably shouldn't go to lightweight. He was going to have to sit out. I talked to his team yesterday, actually. He was going to have to sit out until almost the middle of the year if he didn't take this fight. Not because he didn't take this fight, but like that's just where the featherweight title picture or the whatever was sort of sitting, and because he was the number one contender anyway, and so I guess he just made that decision that this opportunity was there on New Year's Eve. Anyone that's fought in RIZIN or has followed MMA in Japan knows that that's where we want to be, right? I fought on New Year's Eve. It was incredible. So it's a big opportunity, and I think he can, go in there and cause an upset. But from my position, I feel like this is one of the fights on the card that I would comfortably put money on Souza to win.
But,
He has range, he
mm,
has size, he has power, and I mean we know what happens when it hits the mat.
yeah. I was gonna say if Satoshi is like getting lit up on the feet, he can just decide, you know what, I'll take you down on the ground, or hey, your head's a little bit close to my hip, time for a guillotine maybe. The other thing also is that and you've seen Satoshi's evolution as an MMA fighter. He's no longer just a jiu-jitsu guy. This guy is knocking out people, TKOing people, like legitimate top level fighters right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I actually think that I think his first knockout was like 30 seconds. I just don't have it in front of me off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
Mizugaki, I believe it was.
Yeah, and it was like out of the blue, just like
Yeah.
he was backing up, like he was looking for his takedown because that's all he did, and he's cracked off a right hand, and it was all over. But of late, definitely the striking has improved. But I think a lot of fighters have that striking. Like no one hits pads or spars and just looks completely unnatural at it at this level. I think what it is it's confidence. Like yeah, the guy's had a lot of fights, but for the most part, if you're winning them all by submission, and you never have to back your striking, you don't really know where you're at when it comes down to it. And with a couple of knockouts comes a little bit of confidence, and I'll bet that coming off the last one, he's going to feel pretty good about himself because I thought that he would just shoot for Gustavo's legs like straight away. I thought that Gustavo was a real threat on the feet. I mean, I think off the top of my head, he had 14 wins and 12 knockouts or something like that. And he would always take his time and then explode. But look, Souza found a home for a shot and like while backing up too. And so he's obviously got power. It's not like he's launched in with a 1-2 combination and landed on the end of it. Like he's landing, shots going backwards and then following up. And so he's going to have some confidence in his hands. Look, he's not throwing heaps of kicks and head kicks and whatnot, but all you really need when you got that level of grappling is just a good boxing game. And clearly he's worked on that and he can back himself there. So like I said, with this fight in particular, he's going to have that lot. Like everyone, when they go up a weight class, you can feel a difference. I've gone up to welterweight before. Look, there's a power difference, there's a size difference, there's a strength difference. And in this fight, there's distinct like technical threats that Karamov needs to be careful of, which in the past, like an AJ McKee was aware of. A lot of submission attempts, but he was just aware enough to ground and pound for 3 rounds. But that's a risky game sitting in his guard. You know what I mean? There was a lot of triangle attempts. There was a lot of inversions, leg lock entry sort of stuff because he sets his triangles up from his leg lock entry. So he'll attack the K guard to set up the triangles. So that's just the skill set that this guy has. But look, Karamov is a good grappler. You know, he's a good all rounder. He's got power in his hands. He's explosive. He'll take his time. And he's one of those guys. Like I actually think all those guys from Azerbaijan, man, when they let go, it's like they're throwing concrete at you. So if he lands, he'll get the knockout. And he does have the skill set to stay safe on the ground. And I think AJ McKee sort of set a bit of a blueprint. You know, you don't grapple with Souza. You take him down and sit in his guard. You defend the submission attempts and ground and pound for 3 rounds. It's not a fight finishing style, but it's not super exciting as far as, you know, watching two guys just absolutely brawl like our bloodthirsty fans are used to, but it gets the job done and it's effective. So there's a blueprint there and he has a skill set to win. Just personally, I think that Souza will get it done.
And I said Mizugaki was one. No, I meant to say Mizoto Hirota was one he knocked out.
Hirota, yeah.
Yeah,
For some reason I thought it was Kitaoka, but I think that was
that took a while. That took a while for them.
Kitaoka nearly subbed him, I think, at one stage.
Yeah, yeah.
It was wild at the start, yeah.
The one other question I have is, and I looked at all of Vugar's fight, almost all of Vugar's fights, in researching for an article I'm doing for MMA Sucker, and one of the things that he's notorious for always doing is hitting that single leg, and then he trips you, or he
head on the outside.
Yes, head on the outside, and then if he can't trip you, he starts punching you. Do you think we'll even see one single leg attempt by Vugar? I'm thinking no.
Like I said, I think anyone that goes into a fight with Satoshi tries to keep it on the feet. Yeah. But if he wants it on the ground and that's something he's going to revert back to, look, he'll go for his single leg, but he needs to just be aware that like maybe sitting in the guard is the answer. You know what I mean? I don't think passing the guard and getting the psychotron, getting the mount, and ground and pound and looking for your own sub is something that's going to happen. Personally, but I've been proven wrong in the past, and you know sometimes I've made bad, you know, analysis sort of calls, but that's the game. Anything can happen in MMA. But yeah, I don't necessarily think he will. I also think head on the outside, I don't know, man, Satoshi is likely to roll into like a inverted triangle. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't care. Is if you're holding on to one leg, the other one's setting up the triangle. So yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know what to say about this fight.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you need to. I'm calling it Seiki Izawa versus the Argentinian because, okay, you know, let's be honest, you know, this is supposed to be Izawa versus Reina. Reina got injured, and now they basically have a body in there for Izawa. I don't know. There's nothing really else to say anything about it. So, in my opinion, other than this is just a fight for Izawa to win, and if somehow she doesn't finish her, that's a loss for Izawa, in my opinion.
Look, I think if she doesn't get a submission finish, yeah, I think the other girl, you know, she's got power in her hands. So I think like she has like a path to victory. I don't necessarily think the path to victory is going to happen, but I think she has a path to victory. But I do agree with you. I think it's pretty clear cut who's going to win this fight.
And let's show a little respect. It's Lucia Abdelgarin.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. Like without having the card in front of me because I got it on my phone, I actually can't say her last name.
Yeah.
So I got to look at it.
So here's the thing. As a coach, I want to hear from your perspective as a coach. If you're Lucia's coach, what do you tell her to do to get her able to somehow get a win in this fight? I had a theory of as soon as that bell rings, just start throwing. Just start throwing, no matter like.
Yeah, she just needs to stop the takedown, right?
Easier said than
So
done. Easier said
you
than
know what I
done
mean?
with
Like,
Fujisawa.
so like any of my guys or girls like that fight out of my gym, my answer is we need to stop the takedown. So we're not going to throw any leg kicks. You know, we're not throwing any body kicks, and we're going to aim at the chin, not the face. So maybe we aim at the chest. You know, a little lower with our shots. So if they don't land on the head, it doesn't matter. But they got to go under them, right? They got to level change like twice as far. So I think that throwing lots of front kicks, and then maybe trying to run her onto a knee. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of like if I was going to fight Satoshi, for example, that's what my game plan would be. I
Hmm.
want a heavy boxing game, and I want to run them onto a knee. I don't want any kicks that allow them to shoot down the middle. So, you know, if I was a coach, that's what I'd be working on. And
Hmm.
yeah, but like you said, it's easier said than done. But
Yeah.
stopping the takedown is the goal.
Yeah. And the last part of the main card, we got Yuki Matoya taking on Kyoma Akimoto, 30 years old versus 18 years old.
35, 35,
35,
I think.
excuse me,
Yeah.
35. I was trying to be kind. I was trying to be kind to
Nah,
him.
nah.
But
Top of
yeah,
the
and
game.
this is a case of, well, Akimoto's, I guess, some feel that his grappling has not been tested, and so this is a way to test his grappling against somebody like Matoya.
Yeah, and I mean, Matoya was meant to fight in a way. Is injured. So, you know, Matoya is the number one contender, but not only like this is a good matchup because this is the classic RIZIN matchup, right? You're 35, 40 years old and you're still fighting, you're getting the 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? And it's either good for you because the 18, 20-year-olds coming with a bit of hype, you know, or it's bad for you, but it's good for them because they just took out a veteran. And that you know, we see those on lots of cards and they don't always go the young person's way. You know what I mean? We've seen a lot where like, you know, 45, 50-year-old guys are getting wins. You know what I mean? Like, look at Shrek. um, so like we see it a lot, but you know I think Matoya, despite the fact that he's 35 years old, is in great nick. He's looked good. I don't. I'm going to assume you've watched the Confession series.
Oh yes, I watched everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know you've seen the video of Inouye talking about Matoya making mistakes at crucial times, and I'll be honest, as a person that watches him and calls his fights, um, man, I'm always waiting for that time. You know what I mean? Look, I agree with that analysis that he does make crucial errors. You know, as people call them, like brain farts. He has a moment where it just like something happens. You're like, what? Like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? You know, you were fighting like 13 minutes of the perfect fight or 7 minutes of the perfect fight, and then all of a sudden you just weren't there. So it's like he has a lapse in concentration. I think if he does that and he gets comfortable on the feet, Akamoto's got a good chance of, you know, knocking him out. And I say that not because necessarily he's got power, but he's a young guy who's going to be fearless and confident. And that's a threat in itself. You take all the technical aspect out of it. An 18-year-old is full of confidence. They feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and like they can take on the world. You know, and that's a little bit of a problem for him. So yeah, he's going to need to deal with that side of it. But also with that, Akamoto is 18, and you got a 35-year-old guy with tons of fights in front of you, who's a number one contender for the RIZIN title. I mean, you could be fearless and confident, but you're going to be full of nerves and anxiety. So it can go either way. But Akamoto has proved that he's good for the big moments. Otherwise, he wouldn't be one of the top 5 fights on a New Year's Eve card that's got 22 fights in it. So, yeah, I think the good thing about this fight is that both acknowledge the underlying arrangement, I guess you can call it, where yeah, I'm 35, he's 18. They're going to try and use me to build him up, which Montoya said on the Confession series. Basically, Akamoto was like, "This is my opportunity. I want to be the RIZIN champion. You know, New Year's Eve is my opportunity to get next in line for that belt, and they've given me an experienced guy to prove myself." And he acknowledged that. So I think both guys sort of understand and were transparent in what they thought the matchup meant, and also transparent in like the strengths and weaknesses of the other person. Like Akamoto was like, he's a real threat on the ground. So does that play into the preparation? Does he try to not just defend the takedown, but like prove that he can grapple? You know what I mean? And be like, oh, I can grapple with Matoya. Like I'm good. You know, so there's a whole lot of aspects to this fight that we won't know until fight night. From my mind, I think as long as Matoya doesn't have a lapse in concentration, he has the skill set and the experience to get the job done, and it'll be a really good learning curve and experience opportunity for Akamoto. But if he has a lapse in concentration like that young kid, he'll put him away.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I noticed about, well, I know this lack of concentration, this brain farting that you're talking about with Matoya, and I noticed for a time being he stopped. I shouldn't say stop grappling, but he was trying to be a striker,
Yeah,
and that's when this whole thing was happening with his like lapse in concentration. But now he's back to grappling, as you saw with like the Ota fight, um, the second rematch. Yep, that he's kind of back to like what he's good at, and I think they even I think Yakimoto even said in the confessions that listen, he's 35 years old, he's not gonna change up his style, and that's true. If he goes back to what he's good at, he doesn't need to change up his style because he's so good at it.
yeah. I mean, you're 35 years old. You don't need to change your style anyway, right? Like, there's no reason to change your style at 35. Like, he's got a great record. He's had tons of fights for RIZIN, the most, and it's just like I don't think there's a reason to change his style. So yeah, he looked phenomenal in his last outing. So if he goes out there and does the same thing, then he's going to prove a real problem for Akamoto.
Do you think if Akimoto does lose, do you think all the hype, do you think
Yeah,
it's all stopped?
comes back one fight later. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, he goes out there, knocks someone out next time, or submits them, and it all comes back again. So all it'll be is it'll just be a classic case of I lost to Matoya, who's had X amount of fights. He's 35 years old. Um, it is what it is. I was
mm,
meant to. It was a test. He comes back. He wins one by knockout. He wins two or three. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about Akamoto being a 19-year-old phenom again.
gotcha. Um, there's 100 other fights in the card.
Yeah.
I know you've got your time. I'm happy to hear if there's any fights that you want to particularly like point out that you're looking forward to or want to uh give analysis to.
Man, I think the Yaman fight and the other fight I think that everyone should definitely watch out for is Shadalev. I
Mm,
mean, the guy's 13-0 with 13 finishes. It's a crazy fight. I don't know. Like, the guy's a wrecking ball. I'm not sure who stops him, to be honest with you. I don't think he gets stopped or beaten, as in stops a win streak. I'm talking about. I don't think he loses his O on New Year's Eve. In fact, if I was a betting man, I'd say he probably would have to be the shortest favorite on the card, maybe a Zawa. But yeah, that's a fight. I think not just watch that fight, but I think, like, when you watch that fight, you're watching the future. And the guy put one like a letter away like it was nothing. You know what I mean? He missed weight by 2.5 kilos or something and put him away like he was just angry at him. It was wild, actually, how easily he did it. So yeah, I think that fight. Again, man, there's 17 other fights. I'd need to have the card in
yeah.
front of me to remember
Well,
some of them.
thank you for bringing up the Shot Alive fight because one of the things that I've been discussing with people is that one of the things that they say is that he says, Kubo, kickboxer, striker, Shot Alive's striking defense isn't up to par with like isn't the best. But I have said he doesn't need to have really striking defense at this point. Once he gets to like UFC, you start facing like a Max Holloway type or Gaethje type, then yeah, that's when you start needing striking defense. But listen, this guy has not looked in trouble at all, even against
Man,
people.
like, you talk about striking defense, like,
Hmm,
maybe if he'd lost once, maybe if he got knocked out, then he would need striking defense, and not because he'd been knocked out, but because he'd have a little bit of you know, nerves, I guess you call it, or like a dent in the confidence of shooting for a takedown. But I tell you, he could fight a guy over 200 kickboxing fights. That guy's going to shoot a takedown no matter what because he backs his chin because he's never been hurt, right? So at this point in his career, you just shoot for it. He doesn't know what being knocked out feels like. He doesn't know I can tell you, as someone that's been knocked out, it doesn't feel like anything. You don't actually remember it or feel it. So unless something breaks, um, but he, he's not experienced that. So for him, it's just going to be like a feint, 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 set up, feint, and shoot, and it's all over. You know what I mean? And that's really at this point in his career, being 13-0 with 13 finishes, is all he's got to do. So obviously, you need to have some defense, but I don't think he needs defense. He just needs feints.
Mm,
If he just gets a good feint, gets a good bite, then obviously he can make a read on that and shoot. He doesn't really need good defense. So yeah, look, I think I think that he'll get it done pretty convincingly. But there's obviously a legitimate threat from a striking point of view standing across from him. So
mm-hmm. I know that you didn't mention this fight, but I would love to hear his perspective on Yusuke Yachi versus Taisei Sakuraba's debut.
Sakuraba, yeah. Man, it's Yachi is such an interesting guy, isn't he? Like
Mm-hmm.
he'll go on a win streak and then a losing streak, and he's a bit up and down. But when he's on, he's on. But like I, the only thing we've seen from a striking point of view of Sakuraba is like the confession videos, right? And you know what the king said: you don't train properly in front of the cameras. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yes.
which is what his old man said. So it's like he was fluffing around with some strikes and didn't really look good, but it's like you knew that he wasn't trying to look good either. So we don't really know whether he's going to back himself on the feet. You know what I mean? But what we do know is he'll shoot for takedowns, he'll invert to leg locks, he'll do whatever submissions he needs to do to get there. So I think that the biggest problem for him is going to be timing a takedown. Yachi's southpaw, he's quite light on his feet, he's in and out. But yeah, I think that fight. Again, I can't really say that Yachi's going to be a better striker. We would expect that he will be, but we haven't seen anything. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it hits a mat, Sakuraba will win.
See, that's the thing is that we did a preview of the fight tonight. I even said that if it even hits the match, I don't think Sakuraba. I don't because Sakuraba's mostly a leg lock guy. He's mostly a leg lock guy. The other thing
Yeah,
also is that okay, so without tooting my own horn, I had to prepare for my own MMA fight this year. And it's one thing to prepare getting hit. And I don't know if Sakuraba has had that right amount of time to know what it's like to get hit when in a bad in a,
no, I agree with that. And the way that the Japanese train is not super heavy either. So
mm-hmm,
they tend to train they must have the lowest injury risk or rate of any MMA fighters. I tell you, because I've got a 37-year-old Japanese guy in my gym, and he moves like water. You know what I mean? And he's never injured. And so I feel like, and I've talked to him about how people train over here, and he said they're just very flowy in their rounds and stuff. So if you're very flowy, you don't get used to getting hit. Not necessarily that we have to spar super hard in the gym, but he definitely wouldn't have experienced that. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of unknowns. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
I think the biggest problem is if he wins, what's next, and is he ready for it?
mm-hmm. Oh well, maybe if the UFC cuts Crone Gracie, you got Gracie Sakuraba.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a good one.
um, I know you faced him before, and you're the first person to beat him, Koji
Yeah,
Takeda.
Takeda. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about him going down in weight? I've always had this theory that fighters who go down in weight are less successful than fighters who go up in weight because they're so
Well,
focused on the weight cuts that they
I think the
sometimes
biggest
neglect
issue.
training.
I
Yeah,
think
go
the
ahead.
biggest issue is that he wasn't having success, and that's why he went down in weight. And I don't necessarily think the weight change is the answer when you're not having success. I think if you're having success, let's say you're on like a 10-fight win streak, you're like, man, these guys, maybe you've gone from domestic MMA in your country to RIZIN, you're like, oh, these guys are pretty big. And then you go to the UFC. I'm telling you, man, those fucking guys in the UFC are huge. Like, I don't know what they're doing in America to cut weight. Well, those guys are massive. Like guys cutting 40, 50 pounds, 30 pounds in fight week is wild. Like, the size of guys like a Frank Camacho or a Drew Dober at lightweight is insane. So I feel like the biggest issue is like people go down in weight when they're not having success, and I don't know that that's the answer.
Mm,
Um, Whereas if you're like I said, you're on a 10-fight win streak and you're starting to get into bigger promotions, and you're starting to realize like, hey, maybe I'm a little small for this weight class, then
mm,
maybe it's okay. But
mm.
definitely it's a terrible idea to do it, when you're not having success. Um, and he has dropped down, and he hasn't necessarily had a good run since he's dropped down. Um, but yeah, look, I think as a fighter, he's very one dimensional. He's got okay striking, he's light on his feet, and he does have submission wins, but he's a wrestler, and if you can stop the wrestling, you win the fight. And obviously, wrestlers put their necks in all sorts of weird places, which you could ask Darren, because Darren did the same thing. And they the chokes with wrestlers is not a threat, right? So you got a lifetime of wrestling. Yeah, you got great timing, you got good chain wrestling. If you take them down, you can pin them, but you can control the fight. But if you shoot for one takedown with like a half a second of bad timing, it's like choke city. You know what I mean? Like you can choke a wrestler 1,000 times over if they mess up the timing, or they don't strike at the same time as they shoot. So there's no good setup. And I feel like he put himself up against the ropes in was it Spike Carlisle? Choked him
Yes.
unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he put Spike up against the ropes and hung out there too long. And that's just a poor habit from someone who's got a good wrestling pedigree. So yeah, look, I don't necessarily think going down is going to help him in that sense either, because you lose some strength when you cut all that muscle and weight, and then you've got to rely on yeah, I don't know. I just don't necessarily think it was the best answer.
Mm. Um, I don't know how much research you've done this fight, but I don't know if you really need to do much research. But I wanted to ask you about Rukia Anpo versus Cena, and
I
I'm
kind of
curious.
thought you were going to ask me about that.
I want to know, as a coach, what do you say if your lightweight guy is going to face a 100 kilogram guy? What do you tell them to
No,
do?
man, you're asking the wrong person. The only thing I've never done in my MMA career was tick off the open weight fight. So, um, I tell him to go in there and stick and move. You know what I mean? The problem for Ampo is he's going to get right in his face, right in the pocket, and turn it into a fight. And look, that's cool till it's not. You know what I mean? We've seen the viral sparring footage of him and Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland probably walking around like 225 or something maybe. So like, you know, that's a big guy, 100 kilos. So yeah, I don't know. Ampo's probably maybe like 78, 80 kilos. Like it's not a huge difference. Under 100 kilos is not under 120. Like we're not talking about a
he,
Tekka Kenshin or a Sudario type.
he did face Sudario in Breaking Down, so he does have experience with big opponents.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But like, if it's under 100 kilos, it's under 100 kilos. It's not under
Mm.
120. So we're not talking about a heavyweight fight, even though they are heavyweights. So I feel like it's not as bad if you break it down like that as what it would be if you're like, hey, Ampo, you want to fight this guy that's under 120? That's like a terrible night, because if that guy's cutting weight to make 120, like you're in for a hell of a night. So,
Mm.
but yeah, look, I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think it's good. It's part of the spectacle. It's part of what we come to expect from New Year's Eve and Japanese MMA.
Mm. I cannot wait for you and Chiavel to be in the fighter meeting with Cena. You guys are gonna be prepared. I don't know if you've heard anything, but you're gonna be in for something when you interact with Cena. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got the press conference and the weigh-ins and the ceremonial weigh-ins and everything tomorrow. So we'll see how
Oh,
long goes.
it's gonna be fun when you have your first interaction with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that you want to sell about this card? I mean, it's New Year's Eve. It kind of
Oh,
sells
look,
itself.
man. Not really. I think like it's a big card, 22 fights. There's a lot of fights. It starts at I think 1 p.m. Japan time. finishes at 1 a.m. or something. Like it's a long night, it's a long day. But what I will say is, as an MMA fan, and even so myself as an MMA fan, this is a card not to be missed. It's not just because it's New Year's Eve, but it's like a hell of a card. It's got some crazy fights on it. I think we'll see a number of submissions and we'll see a number of knockouts because the fights have those kind of skill sets in them that can deliver. I'm excited as a Verdict MMA user. I'm not promoting it because I'm doing work for RIZIN or anything, but when I seen that announced, I was so pumped, man. Hey, like I use Verdict MMA to predict the PFL, the UFC, and all that sort of stuff. And when I seen RIZIN announce partnering up with them, and I was so excited. So Verdict MMA app or jump on their website, download it, and but not just get on and predict the fights, but predict the fights in the RIZIN Verdict League, because that's where you can win the prizes and stuff. But the things that I like about Verdict MMA, like not just Verdict and RIZIN together, is the live scoring for me. If you go to the global scoring tab on the fight, the live scoring, more often than not, is actually accurate. And whenever there's a controversial decision, it's almost always right on Verdict, even though the judges like Adelaide Bird might have got it wrong. So, for me, I like the fact that you can sort of see if people, I'm not sure how it'll go this time, because you have to score the fight, not the rounds. But I think they're scoring the rounds on Verdict. So it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up and looks, from a stats point of view compared to the winner of the fight, which we all know under the global sort of Japanese MMA RIZIN scoring system is that who won the fight as a whole and damages, the 50% criteria. So, I'll be interested to see how that looks. But I really like Verdict MMA as an app, and from an interactive point of view, it's nice to have an MMA tipping style platform out there. So I was excited about that. So yeah, I reckon everyone should jump on and get amongst that and be part of it.
The other thing I have to ask, because other people ask me to ask, it's actually two things. One, when can we see you back in a RIZIN ring? And two, how long are you guys going to be doing in-person commentary for the rest of 2025, if you happen to know? That's
okay, man. I don't know the answer to the in-person thing. I do know that we will be in person for all numbered events. I don't know anything beyond that. Okay. Which is what happened at the end of this year. So I just assume it's going to be the same. So yeah, we just get told like each event. I'm not like under contract to RIZIN for a whole year to commentate, and it's going to be all these events, and there's no plan. It's like, hey guys, this is the next event. We're doing it live. So yeah, we just, I probably know as much as the fans, so I probably got the same questions. When will people see me fight again? And I don't know. I turned 40 4 days ago. 40 is just a number. My thing is I've always cut a lot of weight to make weight for lightweight. Or I need to fight at welterweight. I'm older. I've had 5 years off. There's not really a welterweight division in RIZIN. There's a few welterweights, but there's not really a division, so there's not really any fights to have. So I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where it's sort of like not worked out. I've been offered 2 fights in the last 3 years. One was I couldn't make weight. Like it was lightweight. It was like 5 weeks. And I can't do that. I think at the time I'd had 3 years off. So 2019 when I fought Masev, I had knee surgery. 2 weeks later, I should have had knee surgery beforehand and pulled out. But I'm not one to make excuses. So I never talked about it at the time. No, I never talked about it afterwards either. But it is what it is. I injured myself during fight camp, and I had to have surgery. So I had knee surgery, and then I was actually getting ready for a fight right at the start of COVID. And so COVID kind of got in the way, and then I just focused on my businesses for a few years. And so I didn't really focus on my weight. I didn't really focus on training. I just focused on my businesses, and I never wanted to fight anywhere else but RIZIN. So for anyone that follows it knows that Japan was the country that kept their borders shut for the longest period of time. So it was really like probably 3.5 years or something maybe when was COVID started 2020? So it's probably like 2.5, 3 years that they had their borders closed. Even the start of last year, we still weren't live. But it was last year, 2000, no, so this year, 2024. So maybe last year, October or something, 2023, they like opened the borders or something. And before that, you had to have a visa to come in. So they opened it for like the athletes, but no one else could to come here. Only entertainment type stuff. And then when they opened it again, I did get two fight offers. One I couldn't make weight in time. The other one I agreed to at a catch weight, but the opponent turned it down. So um, yeah, and they were both exciting. Um, they're both very exciting fights. And no, I wish I could have made lightweight, but unfortunately, with 3 years off and no scope or like goal date, when I was going to fight again, can't just drop everything and go into fight camp and hope. So yeah, I just wasn't in a position to accept. And I've asked for fights, but I like my seat, my seat with my microphone. So I don't know, maybe I can open the card one day and then jump on the mic to finish it off. See what
Mm.
happens.
Well, I just want to say everybody's very happy that you and Chevelle are there in person and no longer have to, well, don't have to mostly do Zoom commentary for the
Look,
time
man,
being.
the remote commentary, as frustrating as it was for the fans, it's not an easy thing to do. As a commentator, it's quite difficult. I was fortunate that I got an opportunity and I had a good microphone, good set of
Mm.
earphones, good microphone, good setup, um, which I'd already had and invested in for other stuff. And so yeah, I was just lucky to get it and sort of grow with the company over the last. I think I've done 33 shows now, so I've done over half of RIZIN's cards. So yeah, I've been really lucky, and hopefully I get to do another 100, man, or more. Like I don't want to go anywhere. I love the company, and I promote them and shout it from the rooftops. I think there's big organizations in the world, but there's nothing as good as Japanese MMA, and RIZIN sets the standard. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
Mm. Before you go, I want to give you an opportunity to plug, social media, your businesses, your gym, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, people can obviously follow me on social media, all social media platforms at Beatdown155. And, I love it if people subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've only got
Oh,
100 subscribers, you know what I mean? Maybe 200, I'm not sure. But if people jump on and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Damien Brown, um, I'm gonna focus in 2025 on building that up. I'm gonna do some RIZIN, pre-fight breakdowns and a bunch of good stuff, and start to build the my individual brand, which a lot of fighters do, and I haven't done that. I've been too busy building my others, and the others are at Base Training Center on social media and at Beatdown Promotions on social media. So yeah, that's my fight show and my gyms.
sorry, I'm trying to find your YouTube channel. What's it called? It's just called Damien Brown.
I think so. Yeah. I only just started.
Okay,
Maybe
because there's 1,000 Damien Browns.
yeah, man. There's more than 1,000 of them. Maybe type in I don't know if I changed it the other day. Maybe type in beatdown 155 and
Okay.
see if that comes up.
Barbecue Beatdown
No.
155 is the first thing
Oh,
that
that's
comes up.
Thailand. That's Thailand. The barbecue beatdowns at Tiger Muay Thai. Man, I'll send
Okay,
it to
here's
you.
what you can you do me is it on your Twitter X, your YouTube channel?
It's on my Instagram, I think.
Oh, okay.
My Instagram bio.
Okay.
But
I'll
like if people go to my Instagram, they go to my bio, click on the link tree, go in there, you'll get my fight show, website and all the social media. You'll get my gyms, Base Training Center. I've got two gyms. We got a bunch of fighters, we got some pros, and and obviously follow me. So yeah.
Yep, okay. I just got it up. Okay, got it. Okay, it's on your link
I'm
tree.
I'm pretty fresh at YouTube, guys. I'm not there. There's not much on there. I did some podcasts a while ago, so there's some good content there with some really fun people. But yeah,
Okay.
2025, I'm gonna drop some content for everyone.
Great. And yes, everybody can check out RIZIN New Year's Eve, RIZIN 49 Decade, RIZIN Decade, whatever you want to call it, on RIZIN.tv. available for $19.99, December 30th for us in the United States. And you can listen to Damien Brown and Michael Schiavello commentate live in person right next to the ring. And Damien, thank you so much again. I'm so glad we got the final link up again after many years. And
Yeah,
looking forward to the show, man. You know, I hope you got your I'm gonna have my coffee with me. I'm gonna have my extra strong coffee.
man,
Uh
RIZIN look after me. When I turn up to the commentating desk, they already got 4 coffees for me every time.
oh,
It's
that's
so
so
good.
is
They
it
just
the
line them up.
which is it? Is it the Mr. Black
It's the,
coffee?
yeah. 2 of
Oh,
those and 2 with milk in them. But
oh,
they
milk
always
ones.
got me 4 cans of coffee sitting there waiting to go. They're so good, man. I'll have so much coffee on New Year's Eve. You guys will be picking up on it when we get to fight 22. Don't worry about
Mm,
that. I'll be buzzing.
great, great. And yeah, man, looking forward to you commentating once again. And it's gonna be a great show, everybody. Please tune in. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me, man.